Hello and welcome to Broadsword Wargaming. In this video, I'm going to do a faction focus on Drukhari for Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team.
The Drukhari revel in piracy, enslavement and torture, and are sadistic to the extreme. Striking from seemingly nowhere with little or no warning, and vanishing with their captives, never to be seen again.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please do think about clicking that subscribe button for more videos to come, because this video is on Drukhari for Kill Team. I'm going to do a faction focus, a little army breakdown basically, on these guys and girls and how they perform in Kill Team and go through what you need to get going. So let's get to it. Why play Drukhari? If you like elves and you like the future and you like space and you like people who are a little bit naughty, so sort of naughty, dark, evil space elf Eldar people called Drukhari now, you like being a pirate and flaying and murdering and assassinating each other, then this is probably the faction for you. Pros. They're very flexible and there are a lot of different models. You can melee with the best of them, you can shoot with the best of them, and you can have some pretty tough or high save models if you want. Most of their weapons are poison, wounding something on a 4+. So for a strength 3 model, or what would normally be a guard line, stat line, you actually can wound toughness 5, death guard on a 4+. There's no vehicles in Kill Team, so that makes this even better. They also have access to some huge, strong faction-wide abilities. Whether you've got a Cabal, a Cult, or a Coven, or you're playing Witches, Cabalites, or Homunculi, you get cumulative game-boosting abilities. Cons. Your guys are generally toughness 3 with a 5-up armor and maybe a 6+ feel no pain. Not great, you're gonna die in droves, you can't really handle those tough, strong opponents without losing some models. Fortunately, you're not too expensive for what you get, but you're gonna have to be careful with losing all of your team quite quickly. Power from Pain is also a great ability, like I said, but it does take some time to get there, so you're a little bit more vulnerable in early rounds of the game. So be careful in objective-based missions, or if you've got to snatch something for, say, the 4th or 5th turn, make sure you're timing yourself right here to do that a little bit later. Strength 3 is also pretty bad for what can be a melee-orientated army. You've got very few ways to deal with opponents who are a long way away and obscured because most of your guns aren't great. But to get there in combat, you've only got Strength 3 and most teams are going to be fielding a Strength 4 or most Strength 4 or 5 characters. So do be careful again about relying too much on wounding those guys with weapons that don't have a Strength modifier. Special abilities. Power from Pain is good. It's something everybody gets, but it is cumulative each round. In the first round, you will get Inured to Suffering. This is a 6+ feel no pain to everybody in your kill team. In the second round, you get Eager to Flay. This allows you to reroll advance and charges. In the third round, you get Flensing Fury. This is +1 to hit in the fight phase for your models. In the fourth round, you will get Emboldened by Bloodshed. This allows your models to reroll nerve checks, coming in quite handy here in the fourth round, as I think you'll have started to lose some models by this point. In the fifth round, you get Mantle of Agony. This is a debuff for your opponents. If they're within 6 inches of one of your models that has this ability, they reduce their leadership value by 1. I'm sure you can tell that Power for Pain does push you towards a melee-orientated army, but don't be fooled into thinking that's all you can do. There are lots of other abilities as well, and I'll go through those now. If you want to benefit from any of these abilities, you do need to build your list in a specific way. To get hold of the Cabals, you can only have Cabalites or the mercenary models, things like Mandrakes and Incubi. If you have a Witch in there, you lose all the benefits. If you want to take a Cult or a Coven, you can only have Witches or Homunculi type models. You can again have the Mercenaries or the Blades for Hire, which is your Incubi and Mandrakes, but you cannot mix and match without losing all of these abilities I'm about to tell you about. Not necessarily the worst thing, because it does give you some flexibility for combat and shooting, and you can sort of pick the best of each of those things. So whether that's a Clavex, a couple of Gunners, a Hexatrix and a Sybarite, but the problem you'll have is you don't get these benefits. I'll quickly run over what the benefits are and you can decide whether or not you think it's worth doing that. For Cabalites, you get to pick a Cabal if your army is made up of Cabalites. There's the Cabal of the Black Heart, meaning your Cabalites will get to benefit from the next level up of the Power for Pain chart. Say on turn 1, you'll have the first and second ones. On the second turn, you'll have first, second and third. So you always treat it as being 1 turn further than it actually is. Does give you the way to boost those advantages early on. Might not find it so useful as Cabalites tend to be a shooting army. There's the Cabal of the Flayed Skull. This one allows your shooting models to ignore intervening terrain or obscuring cover. Great as a shooting faction, because that's what your Cabals are generally going to be. You won't suffer that -1 penalty to hit. You have the Cabal of the Poisoned Tongue. This one allows you to reroll 1s for combat weapons or poisoned weapons. As most of your armies are going to be made up of poisoned weapons, bar maybe a Dark Lance and a Blaster, this is great. And for those couple of extra combat characters you can have, you are going to reroll 1s in combat. A very good ability and one I quite like. And the final Cabal is the Cabal of the Obsidian Rose. This one allows you to negate the -1 hit penalty when shooting at long range. Witches also have their own abilities, and theirs are called cults. They get 3. You get the Cult of Strife. This is +1 attack for any models that charged, were charged, performed heroic interventions, anything like that, generally +1 to your attacks. You get the Cult of the Cursed Blade. This is +1 strength and -1 to nerve checks. And the final one is Cult of the Red Grief. This one allows you to reroll charges. Not something I'd ever take because Power for Pain already gives you a better ability. And then lastly, you have covens for all your homunculi. As with the rest, you need only these kinds of models in the faction or Blades for Hire. One of them is the Dark Creed, and this makes opponents add 1 to their nerve tests for each model that is within 3 inches of them. You also get the Coven of the 12. This makes all of your melee weapons increase their AP by 1, so AP 0 becomes AP -1 and so forth. Good for taking down the high armoured targets. And lastly, you get the Prophets of Flesh. This means your models with Insensible to Pain increase their invulnerable save to 4+. A 4+ invulnerable save in Kill Team is not to be sneezed at. As with all factions, the Dark Eldar Drukhari get their own faction-specific tactics, and they do have some very good ones. I've run you through a couple of those now, and you can decide how useful you find them. For 1 CP, you get Fire and Fade. This is to be played after you've shot a model, so you can shoot a model and then immediately move. Another really good tactic is Cruel Deception. This allows you to fall back and then shoot. For 1 CP, lock a model in combat, fall back so they can't do anything, and then you can blast them in the face with a splinter rifle, a blaster, or whatever close range weapon you wish to use. And remember, you don't have to fall back directly away, so you can fall back into cover, have someone else deal with that model, and then shoot something else. And the last tactic I tend to use quite a lot is lightning fast reactions. For 1 CP, you can play this in either the fight or shooting phase when your model is targeted. When they are, play this down, it's -1 to hit rolls for the entire phase for anything targeting that model. A standard Kill Team roster. There are basically 4 different builds you can do with Drukhari. They have a lot of different models to pick from, so you need to make a decision as to what you're going to use. You can use Cabalites to get their abilities, Witches to get theirs, Homunculi to get theirs, or mix them all together for this sort of tough combat shooting army that doesn't benefit from the additional abilities. Don't forget, Incubi and Mandrakes have Blades for Hire ability, which stops them from taking away that ability from your faction. Did I say ability enough times? Probably not. There are some standard builds for models I like to use. I play a lot of Cabalites, so for me, a Cabalite Gunner with a Dark Lance as my sniper to reroll the 1s is great. Give him a Comm Specialist, just a normal guy with a splinter rifle, to add 1 to hit. That way, if you have to move, you're not going to suffer too much when it comes to hitting. A Cabalite Gunner with a Blaster or a Shredder. Blaster is kind of your melter gun and great for taking down those high armoured targets or multiple wound targets, as you don't have many weapons that can do that at shooting. For Witches, you want to be taking weapons that increase your strength or increase the AP. A lot of them come with weapons that allow them to make an additional attack. You have quite a few attacks as it is, but make sure you have enough strength to punch through things you want. So get hold of those weapons if you can. Homunculi are pretty tough, quite expensive, make you a little bit more elite, but they do come with some invulnerable saves as well. You're probably pushing towards combat-orientated things. A Rack can be really useful for the same points as a Witch. You have a 5-up invulnerable that isn't restricted to combat, and you can improve that with different covens. They have 3 attacks that are poisoned on a 4+. Very useful, particularly when Witches have a low strength. That's not to say Witches don't have a place. I also love Clavexes. You can only take 1, but they are awesome. They can go in any faction you like. They have 3+ armor save, so kind of like your Space Marines. They're toughness 3, but they have 2 wounds, 4 attacks, a +1 strength weapon that is -3 AP, is damage 1, but on a 6, it's damage 1 + 2, so a damage 3 weapon. You're getting a lot of attacks off. Make them a combat specialist or a zealot, because you're probably going to get the charge off because you have a very long move range anyway to put yourself in a position to do so. I love a Clavex and I won't leave home without one. Well, there you have it. That's the video done. Short and sweet and brief as I could make it with the amount of information I need to get across. These guys actually have a ton of rules and a ton of different models, more so than most other factions. But one advantage I didn't say is you can make them with a one-box build. Buy a box of witches or a box of Cabalites, you can play the game. Perfect. If you've enjoyed this video, please do remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the alarm bell for more videos to come. Check out my other faction-focused videos or the battle reports featuring a lot of these different armies. It's a great way to learn the game and a good introduction for newer players. And even older players learn something too. I myself, I'm always learning something with each of these videos, and it makes me improve and think about different things I can do. So if you want to support the channel, do check out my Patreon below. I'm starting to do some Patreon-only content now. It's a great way for me to keep producing these videos for you. Check out my link with Element Games for the models, the Luke's APS GEEK gaming stuff for all the basing needs and the way these models are pretty much based. But yeah, that's it. Video done. Have fun, and I hope you guys stay safe, and I'll catch you in another video.